আমরা যদি মিটিগেশনের কথা আসলে আমাদেরকে বলতেই থাকতে হবে, আপনি কত অ্যাডাপ্ট করবেন। আপনার 1/3 দেশ যদি ডুবে যায় পানির নিচে, বাকি 2/3 আপনি কতটুকু অ্যাডাপ্ট করতে পারবেন। সো মানি ইজ নিডেড, বাট মানি মে নট বি দ্য অনলি সলিউশন। আমাদেরকে আমাদের পুরো ডেভেলপমেন্ট প্যাটার্নটাকেই চিন্তা করতে হবে। এটা রাতারাতি বদলে ফেলার বিষয় না, কিন্তু আজকে থেকে যাত্রা শুরু করলে 10-12 বছর পরে আমরা একটা জায়গায় পৌঁছাবো যেখানে আমরা ডিস্ট্রাকটিভ থাকবো না। আমি নিশাদ ভাইয়ের কাছে যে প্রশ্নটার উত্তর চাচ্ছিলাম সেটা হচ্ছে ডিপার্টমেন্ট অফ এনভায়রনমেন্টের এন্ট্রেন্সে কোন টেকনোলজিটা সাজিয়ে রাখা হচ্ছে, এটা রেপ্লিকেটেড হচ্ছে না। আসলে ওটা আমার মনে পড়তেছে না, তবে এটাও ঠিক, মানে সরকারের হয় কি, আমাদের ধরেন 400 কোটি টাকা থাকে ইমার্জেন্সির জন্য, কারণ নদী কখন কোন দিকে ভাঙবে তো বুঝতে পারে না। তো এই 400 কোটি টাকা দিয়ে বালুর বস্তা ফেলে ফেলে দেয়। এবার আমরা একটা কাজ করেছি যে প্রত্যেকটা জায়গায় যেখানে বালুর বস্তা ফেলেছে প্রায় প্রতিটা জায়গায় স্থানীয় একজন লোককে দিয়ে দিয়েছি, এবং স্থানীয় মানুষেরা নিজেরা ওজনের মেশিন নিয়ে গেছে যে বালুর বস্তায় আসলে ওই পরিমাণ বালু আছে কিনা। আমি আমার ওয়াটার ডেভেলপমেন্ট বোর্ডে, যেটার সাথে নিশাদ ভাইরা অনেকদিন জড়িত ছিলেন, সেখানে আমি এমন কোন রিটেন প্রপোজাল বা কিছু দেখি নাই যে বালুর বস্তা না ফেলে আরেকটু কস্ট এফেক্টিভ ওয়েতে, আরেকটু এফিশিয়েন্ট ওয়েতে কিভাবে করা যায়। আমি কথা বলেছি, এমনকি নৌবাহিনীর সাথেও কথা বলেছি। যদি আপনাদের কাছে কোনো সাজেশন থাকে যে প্রতি বছরই 400 কোটি বালুর বস্তা না ফেলে ওটাকে একটু বাজেট বাড়িয়ে 550 বা 600 কোটিতে করলে আরেকটু টেকসই করা যায়, তাহলে আমাকে একটু জানালে আমি খুবই বাধিত হব। লাস্ট কথাটা একটু বলি, আমি ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জে কপ কনফারেন্সে ওখানে যাওয়াটা খুব জরুরি, টু এঙ্গেজ, ওই নেটওয়ার্কটা থাকা দরকার। কিন্তু প্রতিবারই যখন যাই একটা করে নতুন শব্দ ধরায় দেয়, ওই নতুন শব্দ, ওইটার আবার ব্যাখ্যা বাইর করতে হয়, ওইটার আবার গ্রহণযোগ্য ডেফিনেশন বাইর করতে হয়। তো ক্লাইমেট ফিন্যান্সের ডেফিনেশন কি তর্ক করতে করতে বললো না, তাহলে এরকম করে আসতে পারবে না। তার আগের বছর শিখাইলো এনসিকিউজি, প্রতি বছর একটা না একটা কিছু শিখিয়ে দেয় আমাদেরকে, আমরা ব্যস্ত থাকি ওইটার ব্যাখ্যা নিয়ে, কিন্তু কাজের কাজ যেটা হয় সেটা অনেক সময় আমাদের হচ্ছে না। তো আমাদেরকে অ্যাডাপ্টেশন করতে হবে, শুধু সেটা না, আমাদের নিজেদের প্রাণ প্রকৃতি বাঁচাইতেও আমাদের প্যারাডাইম শিফটের দরকার, যেটা গিয়ে ইভেন্চুয়ালি আমাদেরকে অ্যাডাপ্টেশনে সাহায্য করবে। আরেকটা কথা হচ্ছে, আমাদের পানি সেক্টরে কেউ পিএনজি না, ফরেস্ট সেক্টরে কেউ পিএনজি না, তবে নেতৃত্বেরও বদল হওয়া দরকার। যদি জাতীয় পর্যায়ে আমরা বলতে পারি যে একজন 2 বারের বেশি প্রধানমন্ত্রী হইতে পারবে না, তাহলে এই সমস্ত বোর্ড, এই সমস্ত কমিটি, কাউন্সিলেও আমাদের নতুন করে জায়গা করে দিতে হবে। তো আপনাদেরকে এই কথাগুলো বলে ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি। আর আমরাও কিন্তু আমাদের ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ ট্রাস্ট ফান্ডে যখন টাকা দিই, অল্পই টাকা, অ্যাডাপ্টেশনে কতটুকু দিব, মিটিগেশনে কতটুকু দিব, আমাদের নিজেদেরই কিন্তু ভাগ নাই। I mean that nobody actually did double counting. There are countries, there are entities, there are governments who went into this practice of double counting, as a result of which, even today, except some countries, the emission is going up and the total emission is actually on a rise and not on a decline. Now, if that continues to be the case, then will technology solve the problem? If the ones who are holding technologies are not managing to reduce their emission, getting technology from them on carbon reduction will or may not be that helpful for us. Now I'm very happy that our NDC has been submitted, and this time I haven't heard complaints from anyone that it has not reflected this, it is lacking in this aspect. This time everybody participated, and it's not Bangladesh's NDC, it's NDC that is owned by all of us. Now after that the NDC was finalized and after it was submitted, I've requested my Department of Environment colleagues to come up with a work plan, because in an NDC, Department of Environment will not reduce emission. Some other agency will. The energy sector will have to reduce. The road transportation sector will have to reduce. The agriculture sector will have to reduce. So I've told them to prepare a work plan as to how we are going to fulfill our commitment under NDC. And my colleague whom I have given this instruction is not seeing me after that, because it's actually a very elaborate work. You can always say that we will emit 5% in this sector, but how will you reduce 5% in this sector? But how will you do the reduction? What's the timeline? What are the specific steps that you will take? That I hope before I leave I'll be able to present the work plan before all of you. The second good news is in the area of early warning. The UK Met Office, on our request, has agreed to work with Bangladesh Water Development Board and give them access to their real-time data. On climate, we have seen how double counting was a practice. Need to address with external support as well as by revisiting and amending our policies and practices. Now, supposedly, the amount of money that you need for adaptation purposes never comes to you. What do? You have to protect your interests, your territory, your economic activities, your health, your well-being. So every time I go to COP, it was not me, but rather the previous ministers. Every time they went to COP, on their return, one common question was always asked by the journalists. So how much money have you got? I mean, not this directly, but what has been the commitment? And the helpless minister had to say that we have got a commitment of 100 billion by 2020. And we were all happy writing, we will be getting 100 billion by 2020 as climate support. And that never materialized. Something that we miss and we get suddenly flooded. So once we get access to the real-time data of the UK Met Office, how to translate those before the disaster happens is also something they're going to learn. And it's really somewhat difficult for me to appreciate that how can a country like Bangladesh, who is facing water-related disasters so frequently, still hasn't developed its own mechanism for real-time data collection. I mean, how can we continue blaming you for not giving us the data when it's, of course, an essential part of the internationally recognized good neighborhood principle? But since that hasn't happened, we should have developed our capacity. And as part of that effort, we have talked to the UK Met Office, and they very promptly agreed to it and has signed an MOU, and we probably will launch that program officially tomorrow. The third good news is the Bangladesh Climate Development Partnership, where we have got 4 working groups, and I have told the respective heads of the 4 working groups to include CSOs and academia in all the working groups, so that when the government is too busy following the process, the civil society members and the academia will be able to help the government with substance, points, and ideas. That will also be done soon, and we actually have officially launched the BCDP, and we had the first board meeting held last month. And we are going to have the second board meeting in December. When we talk about mitigation, of course it is not, or it should not have, it's not legally binding on us, but it is morally imperative. You cannot have a meeting at 1 p.m. with all these lights on and the air conditioner on when it's raining outside and there is so much of sunlight. So it's not only what you produce, how much you produce, it's also how you consume. Your consumption pattern will also have to be questioned. The Department of Environment is being assisted by the World Bank to build several offices in different parts of Bangladesh. So when I told the Department of Environment that let us build green complexes. So nobody in Bangladesh, other than the garment sector, knows about the standards of green building. So we are now having a meeting with architects, engineers, so that we can prepare a model of green building, and Raju can tell its clients not to go for energy intensive buildings, but to go for buildings that will be less energy demanding. What brick do you use? We don't want bricklines to exist in Bangladesh, but we all want to build our houses with bricks. Now, how do I solve that problem? One has to think about alternative, and hardly in any country of the world, except India, Philippines, they still produce burnt brick. In the process of producing burnt brick, which is a major source of carbon in this country, you are not only polluting the air, you're also destroying your agricultural land. And the hills are being raised. You know why? Because the soil goes to the brick manufacturing unit. On the other hand, we do river dredging. We don't know what to do with the dredged material. So we do the dredging on one side, put the soil on the other side, and the soil again gets washed into the river. Now, when I was an activist, I was very critical of this thing. But now when I look for places where I can deposit this dredged material, I don't find places. So this is a practical problem. So we can supply part of it to the brick manufacturers so that we don't have to compromise with our hills and our agricultural land. So a lot needs to be done in the country itself to change habits that are destructive to the climate system, at the same time to ensure that by changing our consumption pattern, we already start doing our mitigation. We have to think of coastal afforestation. If we don't get the money for building the huge protective structures from the developed countries, do we just sit like this, sit idle? No, we have to go for coastal afforestation. This time, in Khulla, in two areas, there's no water in the dry season. So proposal came to ECNEC for approving around 70 deep tube wells to extract groundwater. So that is not a solution. It is aggravating the problem. So this time we are trying to have a rainwater harvesting scheme that will be run by the government. So when we think about development, there has to be paradigm shift. Hopefully the project gets through from ECNEC, and we will also reach out to some of our development partners to see if they can help us with financial support and technological support to have a rainwater harvesting system of a scale. Desalination is an issue, and it is becoming more and more complex an issue, not only in the Satkhira district, but also in districts like Feni. We need technological support there, or we need to develop our own technology, low-cost ones, and we need to institutionalize those practices. এটা আমাদেরকে করতেই হবে। আমাদের পাবলিক ট্রান্সপোর্টেশন লাগবে তো। এখন বায়ু দূষণ কমাতে, to address air pollution, to just reduce the pollution and bring it to a tolerable level, you need 3 to 4 years. But to improve your quality, you need more years. For that, you need to change your petroleum standard. You need to totally redo your refineries. Those are time-consuming and expensive things. But when I wanted to go hard on the polluting cars, now that you have heard me, when you go wherever you go from here, you will see all the buses that are plying on the roads are old buses. All the buses. How many can you stop? All of them are old. So, a public transportation er kothata bhabte hobe. Germany actually has a very good model of not only generation of renewable energy, but distribution of renewable energy. Consumers have many choices, and they choose their supplier based on how clean that renewable is. So, আমরা এখনো 5% ক্রস করতে পারি নাই। কিন্তু this government has been very pragmatic in the sense that it has not only said 30%, it has also said that the journey will begin with the government agencies. All government agencies in next 2 to 3 years will have their own renewable energy generation system.